The boardroom was still, save for the soft whir of the projector casting a threatening red chart on the screen. Red ink was mounting, and nobody knew how to plug the holes. The $200 million logistics optimization system of the company, designed to rationalize supply chains in 3 continents, was turning out to be a gigantic flop. If you're new, please subscribe to our channel, like this video, and don't forget to share it with your family and friends. Also, let us know where you're watching from. Deliveries were being delayed, costs for warehouses were soaring, and customers were talking of pulling out. All the experts it had on the payroll had attempted to repair it. Consultants were hired, code was rewritten. Nothing was working. Deadlines had come and gone, and shareholder pressure was building. Daniel Royce had founded this company, setting up in a garage and parlaying it into a multinational technological behemoth. But one small, unnoticed detail in the code had mushroomed into a logistical disaster that was threatening to unravel everything he had worked so hard to build. What about the logic of the decision tree for the warehouse assignment module? Someone ventured weakly. Works, but it broke 3 other systems, replied another. Silence fell again. Daniel stood and walked toward the windows, staring at the city skyline. He hated feeling powerless, but right now, even with millions of dollars and dozens of PhDs at his disposal, he was stuck. As the meeting adjourned, Daniel forced a smile and shook hands with his team. "We'll get through this," he said, though he wasn't sure he believed it himself. He came home late that evening, fatigued, disheartened, and having no idea what tomorrow would hold. The tempest within the company did not abate, and the solution to the crisis seemed accessibly out of reach. But the solution wasn't in that boardroom. It was in his penthouse kitchen, whirring quietly as it wiped down the counter. Isabella Cruz had been working for Daniel's penthouse for almost 2 years. Unobtrusive, on time, and incredibly competent, she was the type of woman who disappeared into the shadows, always around, but hardly ever seen. She was attuned to the fact that Daniel liked his coffee a certain way, his shirts ironed in a specific manner, and when to stay out of his way in his stress-filled weeks. What nobody realized, however, was that Isabella kept a secret life. She had a degree in mathematics from a South American university, but she took a turn in her life when her father got sick. She went to the U.S. to help her family, delaying her career and getting whatever work she could. Daniel had been returning home late that week, his frustration manifest and his energy depleted. Isabella overheard him on the phone, yelling about delays, muttering about algorithm glitches and crashed simulations. She didn't intend to eavesdrop, but the vocabulary he employed was too familiar. She had learned about optimization theory. She was familiar with supply chains and distribution matrices. Her fingers would stop on the dish sponge as she mentally worked out possibilities to what she heard. Daniel had put his leather briefcase on the floor and fallen into the kitchen bar stool, grumbling about recursive loops and mismatched parameters. Isabella, dusting the floor, paused. Then, slowly, she talked. "Excuse me, sir, can I ask, is there a problem with the node routing logic? Perhaps the variables are being assigned before the weight matrix is set." Daniel blinked. "What did you just say?" Isabella blushed, regretting immediately that she had spoken. I just overheard. I'm sorry." But Daniel was not furious. He looked at her, shocked. For the first time, he really saw Isabella, not as a maid, but as something else entirely. "Repeat that," he said, his voice softer this time. "I wasn't trying to overstep," she said, blushing. It just seems like your algorithm is executing the node assignments prior to finalizing the weight matrix. That would generate looping failures and false optimization results. Daniel's eyes popped open. That was what his best engineers were attempting to solve for. Weeks of testing, millions on consultants, and there was his Maid matter, of factly diagnosing the fundamental bug over the handle of a broom. You know logistics modeling? He asked, incredulous. I did operations research. Isabella confessed softly, at Universidad Nacional, before I came here. I just never had the opportunity to apply it. Daniel picked up a pad of paper from the counter and jotted down the fundamental variables of the dysfunctional system. Show me, he instructed, pushing it across to her. Isabella paused and then sat slowly down, pencil in her hand. In a matter of minutes, she diagrammed a straightforward correction loop and a beautiful alternate flowchart, something so obvious it left Daniel feeling stupid for not having realized it himself. He sat there in the quiet, gazing at the page. The solution was apparent, efficient, and scalable. This might actually work, he breathed. Isabella rose to her feet. Why? Died with alarm. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have. No, don't apologize. Daniel broke in. He glanced back down at the paper, then up at her. Isabella, I believe you just saved my company. Daniel didn't sleep that night. Adrenaline coursed through his veins as he worked feverishly to enter Isabella's suggested changes into the system. Line by line, the logic worked with a sort of beautiful simplicity that had eluded even the most seasoned engineers. He cross-checked the simulation results with live supply chain data. The errors disappeared for the first time in weeks. Timelines reconciled, costs plummeted, inventory routes optimized. In mere seconds, her solution wasn't good, it was brilliant. The next day, Daniel arrived at the office with a humble confidence. No boardroom theatrics, no consultants, just numbers. He instructed the IT team to set up a sandbox to try a new solution, free of bias. They thought it was from one of the outside firms. After minutes of its execution, jaws hit the floor. Whose model is this? The head data engineer demanded. His face creased with concern at the figures. Does it matter? Daniel responded calmly. It works. When the executive team was summoned in for an urgent briefing, Daniel presented the solution but not the origin. Not yet. He observed their responses. The shock, giving way to wonder as graphs went green and hypothetical cost savings scrolled across the screen. I'll tell you who repaired it, Daniel said at last, allowing the silence to mount. It wasn't a consultant, not a programmer, not even an employee on payroll. He hesitated. It was my maid. The room exploded, some in laughter, some in shocked silence. That's a joke, right? Someone grumbled. I'm dead serious, Daniel said. She found the flaw we couldn't, in minutes. The room went quiet once again. This time, though, it was not disbelief. It was recognition. In an instant, the company's hierarchy was broken, and a new respect was starting to grow. Daniel knew what he had to do next. The next Monday, Isabella appeared at the penthouse as usual, her uniform baggy and faded, her cleaning supplies in hand. She encountered Daniel standing by the kitchen island, dressed less formally than normal, a manila folder clutched in his hand, and a fidgety tension in his stance. I have to speak with you, he said, not as your boss, but as someone who is in awe. Isabella blinked, not knowing how to react. Daniel opened the folder and slid it across the counter. Inside was a formal letter, an offer for a full-time role as lead systems analyst with a six-figure salary, benefits, and immediate inclusion in the company's innovation council. This is a mistake, she whispered, backing away. I'm just your maid. You're not anything, Daniel declared. You saved us from ruin. You performed better than professionals with decades of experience. I need you working for me. Not sweeping floors, but redefining the future of this company. Tears pricked at the corners of her eyes. For so many years, her mind had been a silent captive to circumstance. Her potential buried under responsibility. Now someone viewed her, not just her work, but her mind, her ability. The word spread fast. Within a matter of days, the media had picked up on it. Headlines lauded the CEO who had employed his maid as a tech executive. The stock company skyrocketed. Morale internally soared as the stiff walls of hierarchy started to crumble. Isabella did accept the job. She entered her first meeting in a sharp blazer, laptop in tow, wincing when she received nods from the same executives who previously ignored her presence altogether. Daniel, whose presence stood at her shoulder, smiled. Sometimes the answer to your greatest challenge isn't in a corner office. It's in a place where no one takes the time to look until brilliance hits you.